I'll just start off by saying that I'm really excited to be here because the subject, the idea of empowering youth is something so critical, and it's something I really believe in. I think it's so important in moving our societies forward. So I'm thankful to be a part of this, and I'm thankful that these spaces of social dialogue have been created, and I hope they're discussed well beyond this conference. The Baha'i teachings state that there are three onenesses, which are the oneness of God, oneness of mankind, and oneness of religion. The Baha'i writings put emphasis on the oneness of religion, that all religions are one, linked together, progressive, and derived from the same source. We can see examples of this throughout history. While the manifestations of God all have different revelations, their fundamental message of love and unity is the same. In Judaism, we are taught to love thy neighbor as thyself. In the Bible, we are told, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. In Islam, it's stated that none of you truly believes until he wishes for his brother what he wishes for himself. In the Baha'i faith, Baha'u'llah tells us to ascribe not to any soul that which thou wouldst not have ascribed to thee, and say not that which thou doest not. Blessed is he who preferred his brother before himself. So the sooner we see these similarities between ourselves, the better we can understand what a unified vision looks like. I have been involved in a youth empowerment program since I was 17 years old. I volunteered with the Junior Youth Spiritual Empowerment Program that operates in various pockets throughout the city, as part of a larger effort by the Baha'i community to contribute to the moral and spiritual empowerment and maturation of our communities. As part of this program, we help create spaces for junior youth ages 12 to 15 to come together and discuss principles directly related to moral and spiritual development. And on the surface, these subjects seem broad, but as the group settles, the discussion becomes really profound. Day-to-day challenges that youth face are brought to light and discussed in an arena that promotes respect and social dialogue. We've discussed issues and challenges, but also in a spirit of concord, helped one another to unlock powers of expression, despite a lot of these youth being accustomed to being labeled as troublesome. But they have so much incredible capacity, these youth. They have so much potential, and it's our duty as a society to help unlock the potentialities within these youth. It's interesting, I've been often asked, and I was asked in the lead up to the preparation for this talk, how difficult is it to talk about these items that are spiritual in nature in today's society? I think if there's one misconception, it's that today's world is somehow more oppressive than that of the past. That it's more difficult to talk about faith and spirituality today. That it's more taboo now than it ever was. I'm not sure why this idea exists, but perhaps there is some psychology involved. We always think that it used to be better beforehand, in generations before. I'm not saying that there's no challenges today. Talking about spirituality is still not like talking about the weather. It's not that natural, I know. But I think we've actually evolved greatly in this arena of dialogue. It was just as difficult, if not more difficult, to talk about your beliefs in generations past than it is now. It was difficult for Christians to express themselves 2,000 years ago without being persecuted. It was difficult for Muhammad and his followers to be accepted 1,500 years ago. And it was difficult for Baha'is to be accepted 150 years ago, and there's still challenges today. Throughout every dispensation, faith-based institutions and followers of religion have been persecuted. In a sense, I think we have actually progressed quite incredibly. We are at a spiritual diversity conference. I am here at a panel with different members of various faiths, and I feel nothing but unity. Actually, I'll be honest, I wrote that a few nights ago, and I was really hoping that would be true. I'm glad it was, because it would be really awkward if we were fighting right now. So I'm glad this statement held true. This entire conference is a celebration of that love and unity. There is so much love in this room. So to me, we have come a long way. Now we have to take that one step further. We have to continue to create these spaces in our schools, in our homes, in our work. We also have to create these spaces informally, on an individual level, to raise the social consciousness. If we are to incorporate faith-based activities in our schools, we should do it with a broad scope and open mind. Informing our youth about various faiths is one step, but it's just one step. Building something that can help society progress is the ultimate goal. Growing up, I never had a course in any of my classes, from primary to the end of high school, which taught me how to express myself properly. These are things I picked up outside of school and I still struggle with greatly. But the importance of articulating oneself, it can't be overstated. It's critical. It's the basis of our communication. Can you imagine the suffering that a youth can go through if they can't articulate themselves and express themselves properly? Our school system is very focused on the same subjects that it's been teaching for years. While everything in our society, our technology, our progression of science has changed, our school system remains the same. And I think it's time we start using the schools as a space for these dialogues of social discourse and spiritual advancement. I'm 29 now, 12 years older than I was when I first started volunteering with the Junior Youth Spiritual Empowerment Program. The interesting thing to me is that I've seen how this affects generations. And it's an experience that you can measure over time. It's more than a singular event. It is a process planted deeply at the grassroots level. When I was a program animator, the youth in our program were aged 12 to 15. And these same youth went on to have their own programs. And since then, their junior youth have become animators. And it's interesting because you can see the development not only in the youth, but over time in the communities, how it affects these communities. They become vehicles of service, champions of justice, promoters of unity, and channels of social dialogue that ripple through the neighborhood and beyond. So those are the spaces we need to promote in our schools. We have to be careful, I think, as faith-based groups, though, to make sure we have a common vision when we do this, to create curriculums that promote critical thinking and create curriculums that become channels of service. That's the key, and it requires respectful dialogue and unity. The unified vision collectively is powerful. If we are proposing to incorporate multi-faith programs into our school, that's fantastic, and it's very important. But we should also distinguish a class of religion from a practical approach to applying spirituality in our everyday lives and making it conducive to building a better society. For example, the Junior Youth Empowerment Program that I was directly involved in, though Baha'i-inspired, is not a religious program, but deals with topics spiritual in nature. Themes are discussed regularly, such as prejudice and why it exists, and how can we deal with it. On one occasion, I can remember very clearly that one of the youth in our youth group was bringing about the issues that she deals with prejudice in her own school. And she said that when she grows up, she wants to become a teacher so that she can teach children that it's okay to sit at a table with children from different socioeconomic classes. And this is just a concrete example about the discussions that come about at these youth groups. On another occasion, we might discuss service and how their vision for the future will render service to humanity. These themes to discuss are virtually endless. but the important thing is they're practical. After the class, we would go out and plan service projects. We would go to a senior's home, we would clean up a park. Oftentimes, we would actually go and visit a senior's home and pray with them and share art with them or share music with them. And the effects that this has on people, and when the youth see these effects, it has a profound effect on them. And when you're so enwrapped in it, you realize that service and living are one, and false dichotomies between service and work are done away with completely. So let's create these spaces. Sometimes we are so afraid to speak about our beliefs, our views, and our ideas on how to change society that we stay silent. Creating spaces like this will help to acclimate ourselves with respectful dialogue, which will touch our communities and transform them. Given that we know and we now have the means and systems to reach people on a mass scale in ways unparalleled in human history, we should be more optimistic in our outlook. We can't, however, achieve this vision until we realize the fundamental purpose of our faiths is unity and love. We must realize our common goal. Thank you.
There are two approaches you can take for the panel. You may have the opportunity to direct a question to a member of the panel or direct a question to the panel, which each member can comment on. We have time. And you notice all three approaches are different. I told you to expect multiple perspectives. You've added the last panelist concluding in a more pragmatic way about a culture of critical thinking, about visioning, and about open dialogue, and so forth. So we're still moving towards empowerment of the youth for social change.